Martin Lewis has consistently warned of how bad the cost of living crisis will get. He is the crystal clear voice of reason, but he seems to be screaming into the political void. The latest energy price projections show an even bigger hike in October and January than expected, and Lewis has tried one more time to get the political class to sit up and pay attention.
State pensioners, the new energy price cap on typical use, and many pensioners have higher than typical use for obvious reasons, is going to be 45% of the current state pension and more of the older form of the state pension. 45%. This is not a mortgage. This is not rent. This is just energy bills. And tax cuts are not going to help the poorest pensioners. It's not going to help those on universal credit. Dropping the green levy is a sticking plaster on a gaping wound. It's 150 quid. We're talking a year-on-year rise here. You know, by the time you get to January, over 18 months, some people will see their bills go from £800 to £4,200 on the same use. This is a national crisis on the scale that we saw in the pandemic. We are currently in that position where we are watching the beds in European hospitals and doing nothing about it and allowing people go to sporting events. And do not negate the mental health damage that is being done to people in panic now across the nation. And the political theatre of allowing the 26th of August to come when we get the price cap announcement with nothing firm in place is incredibly damaging. When I last spoke to you about, and we talked about potential civil unrest, there were 3,000 people on the Don't Pay group. It's now 100,000 people. This is not something that can wait. We need to get firm decisions coming from the key parties. Rishi Sunak needs to say more detail of what he will do, and Liz Truss needs to say more with what she will do. And if it is just tax cuts and the green levy, then we are going to leave millions destitute and in danger this winter, and that cannot happen in our country.
This is truly frightening stuff. How loud does the man need to yell fire before someone pays attention? Dahlia, is this giving you early days of the pandemic flashbacks too?
Yeah, in so many ways. And I think that it's really interesting that Martin Lewis kind of brought those two things into comparison with one another. We kind of have almost, I mean, we haven't moved on from the pandemic, but it feels like that's being disconnected from what's happening right now. Much like the pandemic, this cost of living crisis is exposing so many pre-existing long-term issues in how the powerful have chosen to organize our world. You know, the pandemic was like, it was like an X-ray on our society, showing up all of the inequalities and the vulnerabilities and the contradictions of our social, economic, and ecological systems. And instead of looking that in the face, of reckoning with it and using it as an opportunity to really begin to explore long-term radical change and, you know, a corrective to those issues, we found ourselves being forced to beg for morsels, to beg for the most short-term, immediate kinds of relief that really should have been a given in any humane or sensible society. And the exact same is true right now. You know, if we had a reasonable government, we wouldn't be having to do our like maths 101 and trying to explain to, you know, a finance guy, an ex-chancellor, that giving people £1,200 isn't going to help when bills are going to be going up by several thousands of pounds. No, we'd instead actually be using this moment to talk about the much more radical and systemic stuff. We'd be using it as an opportunity to finally recognize that our global energy system is not working and has not been working for a really long time. Not only does it actually fail to make energy accessible to everyone, even though it's completely within the realms of possibility that everyone could have consistent energy access, not only have these energy companies long been making astronomical profits by extorting the world's poorest, but it's also a deeply catastrophic industry. It's responsible for climate breakdown, for land grabs, for untold human rights abuses. Its inefficiency and its destruction has long been artificially propped up by government handouts, by publicly funded handouts, and consumers have long been forced to bear the brunt of the volatility and inefficiency of oil. So now that we are seeing here, the intensification of all of those pre-existing problems, to the point where we might actually have to see in the UK, coordinated energy blackouts during the winter, maybe now is the time to actually change some of those fundamental issues and have a really radical conversation about what that could look like, not only to solve this current crisis, but to also prevent future similar ones, which are in the DNA of our energy system. But instead, we are fighting for absolute peanuts. And where is the opposition? Like, I'm not expecting the Tories to socialize and green our energy system, but is there anyone out there other than the unions and Martin Lewis vouching for ordinary people here? Like would the real Labour Party please stand up, because the one that we've got just has less than nothing to offer working class people?